Hello everyone, welcome to this lesson on the orphan girl. It's written by H.L.V. Derozio, and by the end of the lesson you will examine the poet's perspective on the experience of being an orphan. You will also be able to analyze the complex emotions and the psychological landscape of an orphan who has lost parents to the ravages of war. You will also be helped to identify and explore the literary devices used by the poet, which include exclamatory expressions, personification, symbolism, and imagery within the text. Let's look at the summary of the poem. The poem Orphan Girl by Henry Louis Vivian Derozio tells the story of a young girl who lost both her parents. Her father died in a war, and her mother passed away from the sadness of losing him. Left alone in the harsh world, the poet worries about what will happen to her. The poem has two parts, each 12 lines with. The first part starts by describing how beautiful the young girl is. The poet says, her hair is as black as crow's wing, and her cheeks are bright like tulip flower. Her voice is soft and gentle like a calm breeze at night, and her forehead shines like a moon's light. This introduction is lovely, but after the first 4 lines, the poet shifts to a darker reality. The girl's father went to the war bravely, not knowing that he might never come back. The poet expresses sadness over how brave people often face cruel outcomes in life. Her mother, unable to bear the grief, also died, leaving the young girl without any parents. The first part of the poem highlights the girl's beauty but ends with a tragic story. The second part focuses on the poet's worries about her future. The girl has no friends in this cold, empty world, and she has no one to care for and no place to call home. She must face a lonely and sad life. The poet repeats that she has no friends and wants her to be careful about being good and kind because the world can be harsh. If she shows kindness, she might face scorn and mistreatment from others, which could be ultimately harming her. The poet feels sorrow for all the pain, shame, struggles she will have to endure, saying that the burden of grief can hurt her deeply. The poet emphasizes how cruel it is to hurt someone who is already suffering so much. The tears of a sad and oppressed woman bring great pain. In the end, the poet suggests that the most blessed person is the one who offers shelter and comfort to an orphan who suffers. Thus, the poem concludes with both hope and uncertainty about the future of the orphan girl. It also highlights the challenges women face during the poet's time, that is the beginning of the 19th century, showing that a girl who loses her parents can lead a painful life filled with risk of being mistreated. Let me introduce the poet now to you. The poet is Henry Louis Vivian Derozio, who was born on 18th April in 1809 and died very early on 26 December 1831. He was an Indian poet and also an assistant headmaster of Hindu College in Kolkata. A pioneering educator, he was one of the first to introduce Western learning in Bengal and inspired his students, known as Young Bengals, to embrace social reform and free thought. Though his life was cut short, Derozio's influence on the early 19th century Indian literature and thought was very significant. Regarded as the first Indian poet to write in English with an Indian voice, his works such as To India, My Native Land and The Orphan Girl reflect themes of patriotism, social justice, leaving a lasting legacy in Indian English literature. The poem has many themes, and let's discuss some of the themes here. The poem aims to evoke sympathy for orphans and impoverished children, particularly young girls who are often vulnerable to exploitation. Derozio effectively conveys a girl's loneliness and sadness, allowing readers to feel her pain. The second theme is a criticism of society and a call to action. The poem points out that society often ignores suffering and does not help those who need it the most. It encourages readers to consider how they can help the less fortunate, particularly orphans. The third theme is a focus on innocence and purity. The orphan girl represents innocence and goodness. Derozio shows that society often overlooks the importance of protecting these qualities. He wants readers to see her not just as one who is suffering, but as someone deserving of respect, love, and care. The next theme is encouragement for kindness and humanity. One of the main goals of the poem is to inspire compassion. By sharing the girl's emotional struggles, Derozio wants to remind readers to care about others. He gently urges those who are better off to act with kindness and generosity. Understanding isolation and loneliness is another theme of the poem. The poem explores how feeling alone affects a person, especially a child. It shows the psychological and emotional effects of being abandoned and neglected. Romantic and sentimental touches is the next theme. Derozio, influenced by the Romantic poets, employs emotional language, natural imagery, and a poignant portrayal of the orphan girl to evoke strong feelings. His aim is to move the reader's heart and encourage awareness of social issues through poetic sentimentality. Now let us analyze the text. The Orphan Girl poem was written in 1827 by Henry Louis Vivian Derozio. It touches the heart with its profound empathy for a young girl who is facing the harsh reality of being orphaned. Derozio beautifully captures her sorrowful existence, portraying her loneliness and relentless struggles with sensitivity and depth. His poignant piece, part of his collection poems, echoes the themes found in Romantic literature, where poets like William Wordsworth expressed compassion for marginalized. Through this poem, Derozio not only illuminates the plight of the orphan girl, but also conveys hopeful vision for her future, reflecting his belief in the potential for brighter days ahead. As an Anglo-Indian poet and a precursor of Bengal Renaissance, Derozio reminds us of the pressing need to care for those suffering in silence. Let's move to stanza-wise critical analysis. Stanza 1.
She was yet young and fair, but oh, she seemed marked for much woe in this unpitying world. Poor friendless wanderer.
Derozio's poem, The Orphan Girl, starts with a short 3-line section that introduces the main character, a young girl. This part of the poem gives a hint that something sad is about to happen in her life. The title of the poem also suggests that it will talk about the girl's struggles after losing her parents. In these lines, the poet describes how old the girl is and what she looks like. Despite her innocent appearance, we cannot guess the difficulties she will face in the future. The poet believes she is meant to experience many sad moments in life. He describes the people around her as unpitying, meaning they do not show any kindness or understanding towards an orphan like her. In the last line of this section, the poet calls the girl a poor, friendless wanderer. Here, Derozio uses an exclamation to express his feelings of sadness and concern for what might happen to the child. Stanza 2.
Her hair was black as a raven's wing, her cheek the tulip's hue did wear. Her voice was soft as when night's wind sings, her brow as a moonbeam fair.
The main part of the story starts in this stanza. In the first few lines, Derozio talks about how the child looks. He says her black hair is like raven's wings. Her cheeks are reddish, similar to a tulip flower. The tulip here shows her innocence, hinting that the girl is pure and sweet. He describes her voice as gentle, like the soft night wind, and says her brow, that is her forehead, is as fair as the light of the moon. By using these elements from nature, the poet paints a picture of the girl's beautiful and innocent appearance. All the lines in this section begin with the word her. This technique is called anaphora. It helps connect the ideas of the speaker as they describe the girl.
Her sire had joined the wake of war, but battle shock, the shout and scar. He knew and gained a glorious grave, such is the guerdon of the brave.
In these lines, Derozio tells how the father of the child died. He uses the word sire, which means father. The father went to fight in a war, even though he knew it could end badly. The terms battle shock and scar show how war affects people deeply. The word shout reflects the loud noises of the battle. The father died in a battlefield and got a glorious grave, but here glorious is used in a sarcastic way. Derozio does not want to make war seem honorable. Instead, he criticizes it by using such a grand word connected to death. He also makes fun of what soldiers receive for their service. He says they only get guerdon of the grave, which means they are given death as a reward. Through these lines, the poet highlights the uselessness of the war.
Her anguished mother's suffering heart could not endure a widow's part. She sunk beneath her soul's distress and left her infant parentless.
The girl's father died suddenly in the war, which made her mother very sad. She couldn't handle the pain of losing her husband. It was hard for her to be a widow. Over time, her sadness became too much for her to bear. Derozio describes her deep sadness to be like a vast sea. Eventually, she passed away with deep sorrow. Because of this, the girl lost both her parents. She never thought her world would change so quickly. Suddenly, her little world fell apart. She didn't know what to do. Stanza 3, lines 1 to 4.
She hath no friend on this cold, bleak earth to give her shelter, a home, and a hearth. Through life's dreary desert alone she must wend, for alas, the wretched have never a friend.
In the third part of the poem, The Orphan Girl, we learn what happened to the girl after a tragic event. In the first 4 lines, the poet describes how lonely she felt. She had no friends to support her during this difficult time. The world around her felt very cold and empty, like a winter landscape. The word cold shows that people around her lacked kindness and didn't care about her feelings. The word bleak suggests that she felt hopeless. The girl had no safe place to go. The poet uses the word home and hearth to represent what she is missing. Home means love, while hearth symbolizes warmth and comfort. By using these words, the poet shows that no one is there to love or care for the girl. Her life became a dreary desert, meaning it was very dull and empty. She had to make her way through life all by herself. In the fourth line, the poet uses strong emotional statement to repeat the idea from the first line. The poet expresses that since the girl never had a friend, she had to walk alone through a lonely desert of her life. The desert here represents both hopelessness and loneliness. Lines 5 to 8.
And should she stray from virtue's way, the world will scorn, and its scorn can slay. A shame hath enough to wring the breast, with a weight of sorrow and guilt oppressed.
In these lines, Derozio talks about how society treats a girl who faces unfortunate circumstances. He points out that people are quick to notice her mistakes instead of caring about her feelings or how lonely she is. What matters most to them is her flaws. If she makes a mistake or strays from what is considered good behavior, they're ready to use hurtful words to bring her down and diminish her already low confidence. Their harsh words can deeply hurt her soul, and the poet compares this kind of criticism to a sword. While a sword can hurt someone on the outside, the emotional pain from words can be just as harmful, making it hard for her to breathe or live freely. In this way, he suggests that the physical pain from a sword might actually be better than the painful words of the hypocritical people. The scars from those words may not be visible, but they can hurt someone's spirit profoundly. The poet also comments that these people show no shame in adding to the girl's sadness and guilt. The cruel words only make her heart feel heavier and increase her suffering. Lines 9 to 12.
But oh, 'tis coldly cruel to wound the bosom whose blood must gush unbound. No tear is so bright as the tear that flows for erring woman's unpitied woes.
In these lines, Derozio explains that it is very cruel to hurt the girl emotionally. When he says cold, he means that the society does not care about the girl's pain. Their cruelty has deeply affected her. They ignored how young she is. Instead of playing and enjoying life like a child, she feels weighed down by heavy sadness. The poet believes that the girl's sorrow is unlike any other. Her sadness comes from feelings of being unacknowledged and misunderstood. He shows that society does not forgive her mistakes. Instead of being kind, they continue to judge her and show no sympathy for her troubles. Lines 13 and 14, these two are the last two lines of the poem.
And blessed be forever his honored name, whose shelters an orphan from sorrow and shame.
The last two lines of the poem show that the poet cares for the girl. He talks about a good man who may help the orphan by protecting her from her sorrow and shame. The poet wishes good things for this kind person who offers help. When he talks about sheltering the girl from sorrow and shame, he means that he hopes she will feel loved and be safe from a society that can be unfair and judgmental. In this way, Derozio says positive about the girl's future. Additionally, the ending of this poem is similar to his poem Freedom to the Slave, as both conclude on a hopeful note. Derozio uses various poetic techniques to make the story of the girl more interesting for the readers. Here are some of the techniques he employs. The first one is alliteration. This is when same sounds are repeated at the beginning of the words. For example, the phrases like yet young, her hair, glorious grave, she sunk show this technique. It creates a musical quality in the poem. The second one is personification. This means giving human quality to non-human things. In the poem, phrases like unpitying world, when night winds sing, show how Derozio gives life to the world and the wind. A simile is another technique used by the poet, which compares two things using like or as. Derozio uses similes to describe the girl's hair, cheeks, voice and brow. For example, he compares her hair to a raven's wing and her brow to a moonbeam. Metaphor, another technique used by the poet, is a way of describing things by saying it is something else. In the line, her cheek the tulip's hue did wear, Derozio compares the girl's red cheeks to the color of a tulip. The phrase, guerdon of the brave, compares death to a reward of bravery. Another device used by the poet is enjambment. This occurs when a sentence or thought continues from one line to the next line without a pause. Derozio uses this throughout the poem to create tension. For example, after the line, she sank beneath her soul's distress, readers want to quickly read the next sentence, and left her infant parentless to understand the full meaning. Irony is another device when something is said that means the opposite of what is intended. In the poem, the line, such is the guerdon of the brave, suggests that death is considered as a reward for bravery, but it really isn't a reward. It's more of a punishment. Hyperbole is another device used when something is exaggerated for emphasis. Derozio uses hyperbole in the line, marked for much woe in this unpitying world, to highlight the girl's suffering. Another instance is, no tear is so bright as the tear that flows, which emphasizes the importance of her tears. Rhetorical exclamation is also a device used to express strong feelings. For instance, in For alas, the wretched have never a friend, Derozio emphasizes the girl's lonely and friendless life. These techniques work together to tell a powerful and emotional story about the orphan girl. So viewers, let's now conclude the lesson by summarizing it. In the poem The Orphan Girl, the poet Derozio talks about the sadness and pain of a girl who lost her parents. The poem shows ideas like uselessness of the war, the feelings of distress, the unfairness of the society, and the feeling of loneliness. The main idea is about the girl's difficult situation after she became an orphan. In the beginning, the poet suggests that no one expected something so sad to happen to her. But when she was left all alone, society, which often pretends to care, only came to criticize her. They made fun of her at every turn, and this made her feel even worse inside. Through this poem, the poet shows his kindness and understanding for the helpless girl in her tough times. Thank you all for viewing this.